Hello, welcome back to Commercial Fishing Radio. The closing date for the submissions to the Green Paper in Queensland have closed, and we'll have a chat to Eric Perez, the Chief Executive Officer from the Queensland Seafood Industry Association. And in New South Wales, a socio-economic study has been released showing that the commercial fishing industry contributes $436 million to the economy. So I'll have a chat to Trisha Beattie from the Professional Fishermen's Association and Mary Howard, the Secretary of Wild Caught Fishers Coalition. Hinchinbrook Fisheries is an Australian-owned company operating out of the Port of Cardwell in the Greater Hinchinbrook region. The directors have a long history in the fishing industry and are passionate about commercial fishing, although deeply concerned with the direction of the industry nationally, which is being brought about by political management, not sound science. You can see more information on Hinchinbrook Fisheries by going through to the sponsors page. So I had a chat to Eric Perez about the Green Paper, and Eric sees the Green Paper as the beginning of a very long process that will result in a white paper, and hopes that the government can recognise the need for an open and transparent process with the whole supply chain.
What we've been trying to say amongst the membership and we're speaking to government is that we know that the Green Paper was a discussion paper, so the government's still trying to formulate what it sees as good fisheries policy. So, it's the start of a process, I guess. Their long-term objective is to get out a white paper, what that'll look like, and the final look of it is still, I think, up for discussion. The minister's gone out publicly a few times since, or at least once since we put in our submission that she's prepared to talk with industry. So we're going to take her up on that offer with the commercial sector. They didn't really look at post-harvest, so that featured as part of our submission and was supported by the Queensland seafood marketers who made a submission as well that was very similar to what we were talking there, that there's potentially opportunities missed in terms of getting better fisheries management outcomes if you're not looking at the whole supply chain.
Eric also sees reallocations as making commercial fisheries tradable and essentially turns fishers' rights into a commodity up for grabs from the highest bidder.
The whole reallocation argument is, if you want to get people wanting to reinvest in this industry, the last thing you should be doing is advocating for a reallocation processes where what in fact you're doing is saying commercial fisheries are tradable to the highest bidder, whether you're in the commercial sector or not. And we don't see any other groups being asked to put their industry up, their sector up to be traded, so that if industry got together and wanted to buy out recreational effort in an area, we could do that as well. That's not on the cards for anybody else, and why should it be on the cards for us? It's almost like they're trying to commoditise the commercial sector so that we're tradable, but everyone else is not, and that's not a way that we think we should be managing our fisheries.
He then made the point that the government now recognises the need for barramundi in the marketplace for the up-and-coming Commonwealth Games.
We know that there's 200 closures to commercial fishing here already, and so how much product is not getting to the consumer that's only available to recreational fishers. That's on top of marine park closures, state and federal. Then you've got your net-free zone. So it was interesting the other week. The Premier came out and said, we need more reef fishing, we need more barramundi for the tourists that are going to be coming in 2017-18 for the Commonwealth Games. That either she didn't know or her advisors didn't bother to tell her, but a third of our wild-caught barramundi is now no longer available to the community because of net-free zones. Until we can government out of how we manage our fisheries, there's just going to be less and less of that product available. Ignoring the scientific data is an issue not just in Queensland, I think it's a national one. If you're looking at trying to value our fisheries beyond GBP, then you've got to look at what's the value along the supply chain. If you look at the documentation in our submission, recreational fishing is declining, and it's a national trend over time. More and more people are choosing to do other things other than recreationally fish. Yet there seems to be this push by the clubs and politicians that want the recreational vote, that they want to try and arrest the trend, which is it's just a fact of life. There are other choices of things to do, and so when you're looking at where do you invest your money, if you believe the experience of Professor Hunlow, then you want to be back in the commercial sector and investing in that area. And really, there's been no investment by government into commercial fisheries here for decades. www.saveyourlocalseafood.com, and we're putting more information on that on a regular basis. So you've got some videos up there. You've got our submission, and in due course we'll be putting more papers on there, including links to the stuff that's been done in New South Wales.
When I spoke to Trisha Beattie, she said she was excited about the new ability industry has to reject the claims from some in the recreational fishing sector that advocate for commercial fishing closures.
Definitely good news for us. Previously, we've always been hampered with the usual description of our fishery, which is using the first point of sale figures. And previous studies had always said that you only times that by 1.5 to get the flow-on effect. Now, this shows that you can times far more than that, times 4 of the typical farm gate first point of sale figures to get what our actual industry is worth. So it's far more an expectation. It's really got the rest of Australia talking. There's a lot of the messages that have come through a very thorough and mixed method approach by the surveyors. The mixed messages from what a lot of lobby groups have been saying for recreational fishing is in complete conflict to the message that's come through from this general public. For example, there was one figure that came through that we all took a note of, that there was over 78% of recreational fishers across the state actually preferred buying local bait caught by professional fishers. Now that's in odds to what was coming through some lobby groups. This survey showed very strongly that people actually wanted to have local seafood when they come to an area. They wanted to partake of it. Very strong figures in that regard. And also there was also very strong figures that people would, it was 64% indicated that they'd be interested in watching professional fishers working while they're on holidays. And it was 89% of residents expected to eat local seafood when they go to the coast. So those are great figures, and it actually will really help inform a lot of the debates that have been going on regarding resource sharing and resource allocation.
Trisha also sees the need for more money to be put on the table by the Baird government should they proceed with the restructure to ensure that active fishers don't have to fix the problem created by the department.
Our original discussions with the Minister Katrina, when we said, look, you really need to put more money on the plate with reform, and don't pressure the fishermen to try and make up the economic difference in buying back these over-allocated shares. And it was originally costed around the $39-40 million mark to fix the problem. And government came up with $16 million, and we were like, well, you need to make up that difference. And the initial responses were, well, you're only an $80 million industry, so therefore we were not going to pay such a large figure. Hopefully, this will help us have a conversation and go back to them and say, well, look, it's certainly an industry that's worth a hell of a lot to New South Wales state economy.
She then insisted that any loss of access will result in a significant loss to the economy.
if there is any loss of access or any reduction in the commercial fishes, this will have such a significant flow-on impact to the New South Wales economy, which has been just terrific to be able to capture that information and demonstrate that. And, having us described as an $80 million industry for so long has been such an injustice to the commercial fishers. So being able to capture this has been really great.
Markwell Fisheries is a processor based in Chindera on the far north coast of New South Wales. They employ upwards of 70 staff in a region that continually struggles to provide employment opportunities for the residents and support aligned businesses both locally and nationally. They have a family history of involvement in the ocean haul fishery in northern New South Wales and southeast Queensland, dating back to the late 1930s. I spoke to Mary Howard, the Secretary of Wild Caught Fishers Coalition, and she is of the opinion the socio-economic study should have been done long before the introduction of the reforms in New South Wales. Also pointing out that the production in New South Wales is down due to government policy.
The socio-economic study really should have been on the table before we went into the reform, and it's been on the table for years, the reform. So is he going to make any changes? I don't think so. Is the policy about expansion of recreational fishing and favouring the growth of recreational fishing, and politically the pressure is there? I think it's a strategy that government is choosing for votes. I don't think it's a strategy that government is really choosing for the benefit and the viability of commercial fishing. The industry in New South Wales is sustainable. It's a multi-diversified species fishery. It is demonstrated over and over again in adjustment after adjustment. It's picked itself up and it's gone on to continue to grow. In terms of production, it has taken the cuts, and our production is down because of the areas of access that we lose and the policy of the government. I don't think they're listening to the industry.
Mary is also very concerned with the fact that the rights of fishers are being shared across the state, and the stress that comes with that is growing. Also pointing out that Professor Steve Keneally has already advised against what the government is doing.
What are we doing to those active fishers? We've just put them through at least 18 months of stress over and above what they were already experiencing, and shared their shares across the state with inactive fishers, forcing those fishers to buy back to get to their viability and economic level they were pre-May 2016. And they can't do that. They can't do it because of the pre-purchasing and the pre-knowledge of many fishers. So we have an industry now that is struggling and will struggle to produce and have an economic viability. Professor Stephen Keneally recommended that the government pre-Niall Blair look closely at the multi-diversified species that we have on the east coast, which New South Wales has adapted to fish for And we are now taking that process of targeting species, affecting the share packages that commercial fishers have, and pushing them into an adjusted process where they need to target a species rather than be multi-diversified. We've got fishers now having to focus just on meshing because they can't get their haulage shares. So they're increasing their effort. So overall, it's not just the economics that's impacted, it's the sustainability that's impacted.
Thanks for listening to my latest podcast. If you like, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Share the podcast through Facebook if you can. For consumers who are concerned about the fact that it's getting very hard to buy local seafood, I will be creating a consumer-friendly channel in the not too distant future so that you as consumers can understand exactly why it is that we import 72.5% of the seafood we consume in Australia. Again, thanks for listening. Bye for now.